Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a wild ride. Against the Sun, based on a true story, throws you into the heart of World War II, January 16, 1942, right after Pearl Harbor. 3 American airmen, on patrol, suddenly find themselves in a serious pickle. Their radio's dead, they're miles from anywhere, and their fuel gauge is flashing SOS. Pilot Harold Dixon makes the gutsy call, ditch the plane. But wait, there's more. The plane starts sinking. These guys grab supplies, water, food, flares, and it's a mad dash for survival as they fight to stay afloat. Scrambling for survival, they lost everything, water, food, even their flares. But thankfully, they had a raft, 3 freezing souls hauling themselves aboard, a cold night, a vast ocean, day 1 of their open ocean adventure. No rescue. To boost morale, Gene and Tony, like the comedians they are, pretend to drink barracks coffee, brilliant. Harold, the pilot, demands answers from Gene, the radio man, about the radio silence. Gene shrugs, too far, sir. So, they wait, eyes peeled for any sign of help, and then, bam. Gene spots an American plane. A glimmer of hope. Lost their flares? In the drink last night? These guys are waving their undies at a plane like it's a magic show. Harold, the resident grumpy boots, spouts some battlefield realism. This isn't a sightseeing tour, fellas. If we're invisible now, we're invisible. Gene and Tony are beside themselves, stranded. But Ferrell, the old pro, drops the truth bomb. War's got bigger fish to fry. And then the lecture begins. No saved food? No flares? Seriously? Harold takes charge. Inventory time. Ropes, whistles, the kitchen sink. But not a crumb, not a drop. Then, a glimmer of hope. Tony's got a gun. Shoes overboard to lighten the raft. Everyone except Harold, that dude's clinging to his footwear like a lifeline. So, they're stranded. Land's in sight, but somebody's gotta swim. Tony's cool with it, but Gene? Not so much. Hilarious. That night, desperate times, Harold improvises a water bladder, using, his water bladder. Gene nearly loses his lunch drinking recycled pee, but somehow, he sleeps. Day 2, our intrepid trio keeps their spirits up with pretend coffee, the best kind of coffee, am I right? Then, a gust of wind, their lucky break. They're sailing towards American islands, hundreds of miles away. Weeks at sea? No problem. They'll fish. Improvised fishing line, fashioned from rope and gun wire. Bam. They get a bite. But whatever's on the other end, it's not a fish. It's a line-eating monster. Gene, a total heat wimp, immediately bails into the ocean. Life jacket on, of course, safety first. The cool water's a dream, until Harold shouts about sharks. Quick U-turn. Day 5, heat, hunger, and thirst are this close to winning. Tony's eyeing the seawater. Bad idea, says Harold. Then, bam, Harold finds a pencil. A map's in the making, using his awesome memory and a compass. They're figuring out their location, eyeing a friendly Pacific island. Now, just need a bit of wind to get them home. Whoa, blowing like crazy, these guys are using their life jackets as anchors. Talk about resourceful. Their spirits, soaring. Then, bam, a downpour. Days of thirst? Forget it. They're guzzling rainwater, laughing like hyenas. A week of fishing, zero luck. Gene's patience? Gone. Knife out, he's stabbing at fish. Harold's screaming, but Gene's on a rampage. Suddenly, a shark. He hauls it in, terrifying poor Tony. Shark guts spill, little fish everywhere, and Gene's got himself a bonus snack. These guys, starving, gobble down raw shark. Seriously, raw shark. Raw. They salvage what they can, stuff their faces, and suddenly, they've got the energy to swap tall tales. Tony's got a girlfriend waiting, and a sister, a real knockout, according to Tony. Gene's practically drooling, picturing this amazing sister, Frances. Then, bam, more sharks. A whole freaking shark buffet under the boat. Gene's napping, hand dangling in the water. Chomp. A shark takes a bite. Tony blasts it with his gun, Harold's patching up Gene, and they all crash for a few days. 15 days adrift. Gene, nursing a hand wound that'd make a pirate blush, is wrestling with a fish, and losing. Meanwhile, Tony's contemplating the big blue yonder, with a gun. But Jean, ever the resourceful one, snatches it. Target, a clueless albatross, sunbathing on their raft. Sleeping Harold wakes with a start, gets the picture, and dives for the feathered dinner. Triumph, except, oh, the irony. A shark, a giant, toothy terror. Harold sprinting, sharks pursuing, and the gun? Jams. The suspense is killer, but Harold makes it. Phew, the shark? It's just a giant, swimming disappointment. Day 20, stranded. And our intrepid heroes, Tony, Jean, and Harold, are not having a good time. Tony's tossed his bullets, smart move, fella, but the mood's still bleak. Harold wakes up to find his pals snoring away instead of keeping watch. Useless, he bellows, launching a full-scale mutiny of doubt. Jean's blaming Harold for everything, the crazy flight path, the dodgy map, apparently Harold's memory's as unreliable as my ex's promises. Tony's suddenly seeing phantom islands. Jean's yelling. Harold's yelling. It's a symphony of blame and barely contained panic. And the kicker? Harold had been asleep at the wheel. The whole thing's going back up in the air, literally. He totally napped and lost the ship's signal. Can you believe it? Jean and Tony were like, whoa, dude. Harold's mortified, starts apologizing faster than a politician in a scandal. Jean, ever the resourceful one, hands Harold the map, get us home, buddy. Harold improvises Oz from his shoes. And soles? No, just shoes. Day 30. They're past human, folks, lobster red skin, feet like hamburger, but they're still paddling. They're even starting to wonder about their life insurance payouts. Talk about a midlife crisis. Then, bam, a thunderstorm. They're soaking up rainwater like it's the best cocktail ever, squeezing every drop into their water bag. Lightning crackles, the drama continues. Hold on to your hats, folks, because this is a wild ride. A hurricane, the kind that makes the sky crack and the wind howl like a banshee. Their tiny rafts tossed around like a cork in a washing machine by monstrous waves. But these guys, they flip that raft, fight the deluge, and somehow climb back aboard. Now it's a battle against the freezing rain, and each other's sanity. Jean's even seeing Tony's sister, and professing his undying love. Harold's fretting about a court-martial for his pre-hurricane nap, classic, but promises medals if they make it. Jean and Tony swear him to secrecy, a pact forged in the heart of a tempest. They almost succumb to the elements, but Tony, our hero, roars back to life, dragging everyone with him in a weak, yet determined, paddle. Hold on to your hats, folks. After 34 grueling days at sea, these guys, hands raw, hearts even rawer, spot something. An island. Tears of joy, laughter, pure, unadulterated relief. But wait, is that a rising sun flag? Japanese occupied? Yikes. No time to ponder, they hit the beach, a sandy haven after 1,000 miles of hell. Wobbly legs and all, they stumble towards a hut, hearts pounding. The message? Pakapukha. And guess what? Friendly to the Americans. Now that's a plot twist. Harold, Navy Cross hero. Tony, trades his sea legs for dry land. Jean, keeps on fighting, then marries Tony's sister. Talk about a happy ending.